Think first, type second with an exclamation mark because it's really important. So to begin, welcome to your TOEFL writing video where we talk about this one big tip for your question number 2 to boost your score. This is part 3 of our series TOEFL Talk with NoteFull, episode number 6, already at number 6. So this is where you get to ask your questions about the TOEFL, build your vocabulary, and partner with us to success. So again, I'm Joseph from the NoteFull team. Very excited to remind you of this tip. For your writing question 1 and 2, and even for the speaking, remember that high quality sentences, clear high quality answers is what raises your score. Not a high word count, not a specific template, as much as sentences that when your grader reads and when the computer evaluates show your high level of fluency, which is basically writing clearly. And that requires you to think first and then type. And I hope in this lesson you have a powerful experience with doing that with me right now to boost your score. So first, I want to remind you that in this series, our goal is to be with you on the TOEFL journey. So rather than have, tips that are meant just to kind of give you an idea of what to do, we're working with you and others who are in the journey to your TOEFL success over months and sometimes years, because you need the highest improvement, have the most demanding requirements, and sometimes find it tough to find the time to study. So a way to train together and to encourage you, your success is coming. In fact, I have positive news for you. Just, we're all part of the same community. We get success stories all the time, and we just had a wonderful success story from a student who scored 27 and 28 on all sections, including the speaking and the writing. I think it was a 27-28 because we just got it. And that student's been working hard for about 1.5 to 2 years because that score improvement was tremendous from the beginning, and it took a lot of work. Some of us have shorter journeys, some of us have longer journeys, but no matter what, we're here with you until you succeed. So to help you and to give this question some meaning, to give this tip some meaning, let's hear the question that inspired these last few episodes one more time, just to connect, to hear each other, and to know what we're working to improve. So let's hear Mohammed's question, which inspired this answer, this tip number 3.
The most part which I struggling with is writing. So when I start writing like the independence essay, I always struggling. I don't know why and how to improve it. This is sometimes make me crazy. And I tried to take like online courses. I did TOEFL many times, but still my score lower than 20. And that's...
All right, so we hear that with Mohammed, right? We're with him, with you. How do we get past the 20? This tip, along with the others in episode 5 and 4, which we will link to below this video, create the 3-tip series that will transform your score. And now let's hear Peace, whose question also inspired this 3-tip series. Let's give a listen.
Hi, Joseph. Thank you for the lecture so far. For the writing section, I have difficulty with time management. I've realized that most times I don't go through my work, like I don't proofread, and I think it's affecting my scores. And also for the writing question too, I need ideas on how to write an organized essay. I sometimes find it difficult to get, maybe reasons with examples. And I get stuck sometimes so too. So can you help me out with this section? I will really appreciate. Thank you.
Absolutely, Peace, and I'm sure you all agree. If you feel inspired to submit your question with what you're struggling with, remember that below this video we have a link where you'll see that app on the screen and you'll be able to use it to record your question for us to hear and possibly inspire the next episode for you and everyone. So now that we heard Muhammad and Peace, we realize the importance of our third tip. Now, there's a reason why this is number 3. Again, tip number 1 was in episode 4, and that was write in units. That's the fundamental core of being able to succeed on the speaking and the writing. Question number 2 especially. The second tip was write to your word count, and we're going to review this today so you have a sense. That means that with tip 1 and 2, I promise you, we guarantee you, you have improved how you write. Now you have to remember that these habits and skills are new. So when you learn something new, can you usually do it quickly? No, right? You need to be slow and careful. So this is where a lot of students struggle because we don't study enough so that our skill is strong enough to be fast for the TOEFL. So the other thing is that even when we train, a dozen hours, 12 hours, 24 hours over several weeks, and we have the skill, the TOEFL is stressful. That moment where you're typing, you're thinking of a question you haven't done before, you're trying to express yourself. If you don't have the habit of taking moments to think and then type, you're not going to give your brain a chance to help you, to remind you of what you've learned. And then, even with all your hard work, you'll still get that old score, that 20 or that below. So in your classes, make sure you're getting this kind of feedback that is consistently reminding you. The timer makes you want to rush. You get trained sometimes in a way that makes you feel like word count is critical. It's important, but it's not number 1. Right? Number 1 is the quality of your content. That's what your graders are reading to assign your score. So how do we apply this to get your dream score? Well, I'm very excited. Let's jump into our lesson. You see on the screen an example body paragraph, right? Because to teach you the entire essay requires one of our courses where we have, 12 hours of material to train you on everything. So we just want to create this series to give you guidance, to know what to do next. And at the end of the video, at the end of today's episode, we're going to explain how you can get more help and work with us so you learn like this for every paragraph for question number 2 and every part for your TOEFL to get your dream score, right? We can do it. So the first thing is I want you to feel comfortable reviewing the kind of body paragraph, which is really important for your score, the way of writing, right? Muhammad, Peace, everybody, that will get you all the way up to a 30 out of 30. So for the TOEFL reading, we teach to read at a speed of about 160 words per minute. And we use that as the base for everything, for the speaking, for the writing, when you have to read something. So right here, this paragraph, if we highlight it and do a quick word count, it's 172 words. So we do some quick math, and we have 172 divided by 160, because that's how many words per minute we want to be training ourselves to do for the TOEFL. And that gives us a decimal, right? A fraction. We multiply that by 60, and that's how many seconds we have to read this at a good speed. So what you see on the screen, I'm going to give you 60, it was 64.5, so 65 seconds. That's a minute and 5 to read this paragraph. And kind of remember that question, right? Read that from beginning to end to reconnect you with the type of simple, clear, focused language that gets your dream score. So begin reading that paragraph that answers the question, do I agree or disagree? People behave differently when they wear different clothes, starting now. Congratulations, you're trained now. If you finish sooner or you need more time, remember that that encourages you to maybe join us where we get to work together in some courses to get you to read at this 160 words per minute. Because you don't want to read faster because then you're not comprehending as much as you could. And you don't want to read slower because then you're going to run into time management issues. So now that we're familiar with that paragraph, you can always pause and reread it. The next thing that we started to focus on was thinking in units. So first, let's see those 4 steps of writing a body paragraph. So when you think first, speak second, you need your brain to be a master of what you need to do. Then, when you take a moment to think, it supports you. It tells you what to do next. It reminds you, and then you can produce great results. So in the previous episodes, what we did was we divided the paragraph into units. And so every part of your answer for the speaking and writing, question number 2, we divide into units. That way you always know the purpose of what you're writing. And when you know the purpose, you improve your score because your essay is stronger. You improve your confidence and your comfort too. So the 4 steps are here that we teach. And in the example paragraph, I hope you realized it, but you see those 4 steps there. So I'm going to disappear from the screen, and I want you to read all of this. So this is 230 words. So now I want you to read everything here. I want you to read from here down to the very end. Now these are the steps to complete the paragraph. And you see how we have read the question again. So the most important thing on the side is that you want to support your thinking first and typing second, because it's very hard to keep a question in your short-term memory. So it's impossible, I think, for almost everybody, depending on your memory, to write and remember the question perfectly. But connecting to that question, having that question in mind that you're answering, is critical to create the connection and the comfort when you write. So as you complete every step, right, every color, you finish that sentence or that part, you want to review, check that question again, because the number one thing that from the, I don't know how many thousands of essays we've reviewed over the years from you working hard to improve, that kept your score down was a disconnection. Like you think I'm answering every part of the question, but in truth, some point is missing. For example, the question says, now compared to the past. A very common question on the TOEFL, and most students forget to discuss that. And then that means the essay is incomplete, and even if you write something perfect, it can't get a perfect score because it's missing that. So now you understand what we mean by read the question. We have the steps. So review this. We found that it was, let's see here one more time, 230 words. Right? 230 exactly. So let's do the math. 230 divided by 160 times 60. Okay, so 86 seconds, about 87. So that's 1 minute, 27 seconds to read everything on the screen from beginning to end. Good luck, and do that now. Okay, so I hope that you saw the connection between these different colors. You saw how the steps match and were connected. And if you have any questions about this, remember to review our previous episodes, which you see linked below this video, so this feels 100% clear to you. But just to continue to review, we taught you to write in units, to think in units. And what you see on the screen, right, is an illustration of how we think. So let's review that very quickly. You want to think of your essay as one big unit that has a purpose. You're writing in 30 minutes to persuade somebody about your opinion, to express yourself in a way that can lead me or anyone to say, hey, that's a good idea. You make a good point. I agree with you. Or I really understand why you think the way you do. You want to remember that's the purpose. So think first, type second means that your brain has moments to remind you, because then you can write in a way that does the job the graders are looking for. That's the requirement of this question, right? And then we have strategies to do that. Then you want to realize, what paragraph are you on in your essay, because that has a purpose. Then we have steps to complete each paragraph. You just saw those for the body paragraph. So you need to think first, type second, because you need those moments to remind you, okay, this is the example to support my explanation of how my reason leads me to believe what I believe. If you don't have those moments of pause to remind yourself, then we become disconnected, we become rushed, and we get the exact same score we got before. The next thing is you want to think about your individual sentence. That's one unit of information. You don't want to, sometimes we get into a lot of trouble when we have so many ideas in our head, right? I got to get all of this out. And so we don't think about the sentences that we're writing. Is this sentence complete? Is it clear? Is it delivering one piece of information for my reader clearly? Or am I just kind of putting everything together? And I have written an entire 30-minute essay and haven't even thought of my sentences, right? And then when you create the sentences, to remember that to boost your grammar. Okay, so the majority of the students we work with, and I'm confident you, write at a level lower than your grammar ability, than your grammar knowledge. Because out of probably every, let's say, 10 errors, or maybe every 10 examples of a lack of clarity perhaps in your essay, if we talk about it and if I highlight the sentence and say, does that sound right to you when you read it? About 8 out of 10 times the student will say, yeah, I see the mistake. Oh, I should have fixed that. I should have written something different. That doesn't make sense to me. So in order for you to raise your score, there's something we can do so easy. Write better to your level. You don't have to learn anything new. You just have to put what you know on the paper. So when you type quickly, when you don't have time to think, when you don't take a moment to know what you're doing, what do I want to say next? You don't have the chance to bring your best language and grammar, and then your score lowers. So it's like every maybe 3 to 7 words you type, you want to pause for a moment, definitely after every sentence. And then instead of writing and reviewing without structure, you write a sentence and then maybe you just read it once to double check that it's clear, and then you write the next sentence, and then you write the next sentence. And it's very normal that as you're typing, everyone does it, where in the middle of the paragraph, you're kind of like, how do I continue this? How do I finish this? And you need to reread maybe your paragraph from the beginning. That's normal, but it takes time. And if you have this habit of writing in units and then reviewing a unit, you don't have to do that as much. You're much smoother because you're always following from what you just wrote. So it's connected and clear. You're always thinking, okay, I see my time, I know my job and what I have to do, and I get to it. So that leads to this part. So this is really powerful because in the previous episode, episode 5, remember that what we did was we learned how to write to your word count. So you want to write a complete paragraph within the time that you can that produces your best writing. For some of us, we can maybe produce 100, or maybe I can say, if you remember, we can type 10 words a minute, clear and at our best language. For some of us, 5 words a minute. For some of us, 20. The key is to write to your speed where your writing is its best. And still you finish on time and complete. So that was tip number 2, episode 5, write to your word count. So we created this together. So again, I'm going to have you read this to help you see that it does the same job as the previous paragraph. It's still going to work to get you a top score, but of course we want more content. But for you to improve, we have to produce this and then train ourselves to type and to write faster. We trained you on how to do that and gave you resources in episode 5 so that when you get to your TOEFL, we learned that high level content, high level, not just words, at about 300 to 350 words can get you the 24 plus. When you start to write 400, 450 words, then we see that most students start to score in the 26 to 30 out of 30 range. You don't need more than 450 words. So when students write more than that, we recommend you keep your word count to 450 and just be more relaxed as you type, think more carefully, review your grammar a little bit more, because words beyond about 450 aren't really contributing to your score, right? So let's go ahead and do that word count. We have 151 words here. So you know our math now, right? 151 words divided by 160 times 60. You have 57 seconds to read from top to bottom to remind yourself of the steps for the body paragraph, and also to look at this paragraph that's smaller but still needs to and does complete each step, each unit, right? So 57 seconds, begin reading now. All right, so I hope that's clarifying everything for you and making sense. Now, let's actually write a paragraph or part of the paragraph together. Let's get started, both of us, to think in units and apply all that we've learned. And again, if this is a little tough and you haven't reviewed episodes 4 and 5, make sure to do that and then revisit this video, and you will improve your score. And you'll see how this helps you for writing question 1 as well. So let's go here, and we see our question again. So we're going to test a couple of things. First, do you have what's in your mind that you need to succeed? So as we write, when you think, do you actually remember what step you need to complete, how to do it? Because if you don't, then you need to review what we just did again. You need to take a course, train, so your brain knows it so that it can help you. That way you do it over and over, and it moves from your brain telling you to you're just doing it naturally. So we're going to work on this together. So let's work on one reason that I think we can all kind of work with. And that's the idea that people, do we believe people behave differently when they wear different clothes? We're going to agree that they do, right? Just for our purposes here. And we're going to say the idea is, well, the concept, the experience that depending on the way you're dressed, people treat you differently. They tend to. And when they treat you differently, you behave differently. And so let's first begin by explaining that. So what's our first unit, right, for a body paragraph? Deliver our reason, right? So let's say this is our second body paragraph. So I write first, and you can open your Microsoft Word or any processor that you have. You can even be writing, right, as I do this. And just for comfort, I'm going to write, and then I'm going to ask you to pause, and then you write. So we're first going to write our first unit, a sentence that gives the reason. So I would say, second, right, and you follow me, and then you go from your mind, from memory. Second, people treat you differently. Okay. Now I pause here and I look. People treat you differently because my brain recognized that this is pretty much a complete sentence. People treat you differently. That has its subject verb, it's complete. So now I'm going to add something. So this is a independent clause like when or because. Or I can finish with a period, but that sentence wouldn't give you the meaning, wouldn't give you the complete idea. So I pause and review it quickly. People treat you differently. What's the best way I can say that? I can say a few ways, right? I can say depending on the clothes you wear. Or I can say people treat you differently when you wear different clothes, right? So you see how that's a unit, and thinking in this way helps, because when you try to write this idea just from beginning to end, you forget to think in grammar, and that dramatically lowers your score. You feel more pressure. This calms you. Now, even though I've written that sentence, you're going to find that when you write it on your own and you look away from the screen, it won't be as easy. And this is what we call kind of learning with some basic help, like with the training wheels. So let's get our first vocab word. So we see training wheels here, right? We all know what those are. I hope we do. You see the picture. A pair of small supporting wheels fitted on either side of the rear wheel of a child's bicycle. So when we train, right, you see those training wheels, right, at the back, right here. When we train, we don't want to jump in and go for the most difficult thing. We want to build our skill gradually. So training wheels means I write the sentence, kind of illustrate the idea, now you do it. And when you write the sentence, recognize that you have kind of two units. So go ahead, pause the video, and write or type your sentence now. Okay, what's the next unit? To explain, to give a little bit more understanding for the reader of why does this lead me to believe that people behave differently? Okay, people treat me differently, but why does that mean I behave differently, right? Do you notice there's something missing? So the second unit is to complete that idea. Did you know that? Could you repeat it? Because if you can't, then we need to support ourselves by studying more so that when we think, it helps because we realize what we have to do next. So second, people treat you differently when you wear different clothes. So to explain that, I want to say, as a result, you behave differently because, now, you behave differently is a complete sentence. Now I'm adding the next unit, because. And I pause to take a moment. As a result, you behave differently because. Now I need my subject verb. So I pause. You behave differently because we usually respond to people in the same way. Okay, now this is more complicated grammar, so I need to take my time. So because we usually respond to people, that's a complete idea. Because we usually respond to people. So I have to take a moment and create a connection. In the same way. Now, in the same way is is a prepositional phrase, right? In the morning, in the same way, in the evening, in my opinion. This kind of like a phrase that's an adverb. So you have to learn to write like this to dramatically improve. Now, what's another way to say in the same way? Sometimes we use like or as, right? So when you think in units, you realize, what am I trying to say? And then the grammar, because you read, because you study, starts to appear. But you need to think a little bit first before it arrives. So as a result, you behave differently because we usually respond to people as they treat us, or in the same way that they respond to us. So we usually respond to people as they respond to us. So I make that correction so it's a little bit easier to follow. Now, oftentimes students will say, should I use complicated grammar or complicated vocabulary? My response, our response as NoteFull is, your idea, whether you believe it or not, is complicated enough. As an academic professional explaining yourself, it's going to naturally produce complicated grammar, whether you agree or not, right? This is a complicated sentence that if you can write yourself well, shows that you can get a 26 to 30 out of 30. So the next word that we bring up is incredulous, right? A word that I've used often that we're going to review because I want us to be more understanding of the truth of your power, right? So incredulous means unwilling or unable to believe something. So we've studied that word before a little bit, so I don't want you to be incredulous to the fact that if you explain yourself as simple as possible, you'll still have complicated sentences because your idea is complex. So it requires you to pause to think and to think in grammatical units, and that changes everything. So as a result, you behave differently because we usually respond to people as they respond to us. There are 4 grammatical structures there. As a result, you have an adverb with a comma. You behave differently is a complete sentence. Because we usually respond to people is a dependent clause. As they respond to us is another one. That sentence, the computer will reward you and the grader will reward you with a higher score if you write like that from beginning to end. So now that we've learned not to be incredulous that we don't, and believe, I don't need to care about improving my vocabulary and grammar as much as writing clearly by using the right vocabulary words that fit and the grammar that allows me to explain myself well. So now pause the video. Your turn to write a similar sentence that expresses this idea. It can be 2, can be 3. Write it in your way. Go ahead and do that now. All right. Now, for me, because we're just doing an example, I feel quite satisfied that this does the first 2 steps. I don't need another sentence. Now I can jump into the example. And the example will be anywhere from 4 to 6 or 8 sentences. Then I write the conclusion. So if you have this habit of thinking first and typing second, you're on track to success. Now, if you remember before, we learned that we wanted to read the question between every step. For me, I didn't do that because I didn't feel the need to, because this was just the second sentence. So you can adjust, but definitely by this point when I get to the example, I want to check it. So, it's flexible. It depends on you and your experience. But at least every other step, every other sentence, you want to just double check the question. Okay, people behave differently when they wear different clothes. All right, and then I continue, and now I'm more connected. So everyone, Again, my hope is for you to complete the paragraph on your own and recognize that now your paragraph, even if it's smaller because you're thinking more and it's not as big as it usually was, it's going to be higher level, higher scoring. And as you get used to this, your your writing is going to improve dramatically, and your speaking will as a result. This is how we get our dream score, and why sometimes improving takes so much time, because this is not easy. There's a lot to do. It's a tough exam, and you're not alone in needing more time for it. So that's why the next vocabulary word I want you to do, or I want you to learn, is drill. So that's a great word, right? We know it's a hand tool, but as a verb, it comes from, you see one of the definitions that says like a military exercise, but a drill, the second meaning, right? So we have drill here, and you see how it appears as a noun and as a verb, and we're going to use the second meaning, which is more like military. So instruct someone in something by the means of repeated exercises or practice. So your job is to, I hope, review this video, do this exercise enough so that you know each step. You know what each step requires, each unit, because you reviewed the paragraph so much. And you know how to write in units, and then take a moment to think. Because we talked, it took a while. But after, enough drills, hours of this drill, writing in this way with no timer, you build the habit. And then you can write under time conditions. And if you integrate all these 3 tips, you're on track to success. So let's go ahead and review our vocab now. Today we have basic vocabulary, but very important for your TOEFL success. Training wheels. Don't watch a video once. Watch it 2, 3, 4 times. Pause and practice, because that's like training, like riding a bike with training wheels. You're guided. You won't make as many mistakes, because a lot of times we struggle when we watch something, when we learn something, and then we assume because we understand it, we've memorized it, but we haven't. We have to review many times before we have it memorized. And then when it's memorized and understood, now our brain can help us to tell us what to do. And then we have to do it enough so that it comes out naturally, so under TOEFL test conditions we perform. That's why we can struggle in the journey for much longer than we need. So what I just explained was drilling. Drilling means doing the same exercise with careful thinking, not like a robot, but with reviewing what you're doing over and over with the same question, the same paragraph, until you feel like I've mastered this process so much that I can perform it with a new paragraph. And one example I like to give for you as a professional is, imagine, a lot of you are pharmacists, doctors, teachers, lawyers, dentists. Imagine if you had to learn how to interact with each patient before you met them as if they were the first patient ever. It doesn't make so much sense, right? You learn a process. You learn how to be present, how to really think and interact with a patient or an individual. You kind of get a process, and then you have the confidence that, every person is unique, but I have the tools to support each person, to interact with that. The same thing with your TOEFL, with questions. You build the skills so that you get the confidence. Any question I can succeed well with. So by drilling, you'll get that confidence and you'll get that score that you're looking for. And the second word, incredulous. So I think students tend to be incredulous about a few things that hurts their score from my experience, right? Working at NoteFull 10 plus years. The first incredulous element is around you're currently able to get your dream score. The majority of you have that power, but you don't have the habit to do it under stressful conditions. The next thing that we tend to be incredulous about is, no way. I don't need to do one question and review that question 50 times. I need to do 50 different questions, and then I'm prepared for the TOEFL. So many people are incredulous with this method of the same question, the same paragraph, the same video, reviewing 3 to 5 times, 10 to 50 times until you master it. But that's why our students succeed. That's why you will succeed. It works. And now I want to take a moment to give you a thumbs up because you've made it to the end of the video. You've worked hard. Your effort inspires us to do our best. So not perfect, but our best. So if this helped you, if you felt encouraged, if you feel more aware of what you need to do to succeed, please hit that thumbs up button, give us a like, support us, let us know that it's helping you. And don't forget to click subscribe because these episodes are going to come out every week to every other week on Thursdays, usually in the afternoon to the evening. So you want to make sure to hear the answers to future questions to help you until you pass. And with that said, now about our partnership, right? How to stay connected, not just by subscribing, but if you want to work with us in courses and in classes, we have classes coming up on the writing for every section of the TOEFL where you get to ask your questions live. We work through material together every step of the way to your dream score, a self-study material, small group tutoring. It's all there for you. And the first question is, you might be asking, what does it take to start so that we work together from where you are now to get your dream score? It does take a little time because I want to make sure that you enter into the course knowing what to expect because it's intense, designed to get you results. So if you're ready to invest about 15 to 30 minutes, click on the link below this video where we talk about how to get started with us. And we use a great success story to explain how we work, the courses we offer, and how we can continue working together from this video to improve your score on any and every section. So that concludes our episode for today. It was a pleasure working with you. Students are succeeding, and your success will come, right? What you're learning works. So have a wonderful day. Until next time, hope to see you in the course or in the class we have. Just click on that link below. But until then, bye-bye.